All right, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours with Cloud Posse, your weekly dose of insider DevOps trends, AWS news, and Terraform insights, all sourced from our sweetops community, plus a live Q&A you can't find anywhere else. I'm your host, Eric Osterman. It's June 26, 2024. I'm going to be talking about some news and announcements today. Real quick, I'm the founder of Cloud Posse, and we are a DevOps accelerator for funded startups and enterprises. We help teams who are overwhelmed with AWS. We do this by leveraging our over 200 Terraform modules that have been battle tested and downloaded over 100 million times. So no matter where you find yourself on this journey, we're here to help your startup launch better products faster. Just book a meeting with me if you're interested in finding out more how we can help you at your organization. Go to cloudposse.com/meet. That again is cloudposse.com/meet. All right, let's see here. You know what? Hey, you guys didn't stop me. I did not share my slides, did I? Totally out of it here. All right, let's start that part of our intro here as I locate the Zoom controls again. You know, for someone who's been doing this for 5 years, you'd think I'd have it down pat every single time. All right, here we are. So news and announcements for today. Here are some things that caught my eye. It's kind of weird. It's like, things come in threes or something. JQ has been around forever. YQ a little bit less than forever, but still a long time. Last week, we, I think, shared a tool called FQ, which is maybe I'm getting mixed up. I think it was FQ, which is a interactive JQ alternative. Well, I just came across another one. I think it was trending on Hacker News, which combines some of the other options into a tool called QQ, which is designed to just work across multiple formats. I thought it was relevant to everyone here because one of those formats is HCL. So you can use this for querying HCL, just like you can kind of query JSON. Now, I believe there are ways to anyways convert HCL to JSON. As we all know, they are interchangeable formats. This just does it for you in one tool. So it's, I guess, convenient for Terraformers if you ever find some need to query your HCL code. Haven't tried it out. Curious how it works. Does that solve anyone's needs by any chance? Just curious.
I was looking through the README page and I realized you can have an example where they look at XML, pipe it through a query, and then output Terraform. The comment says it could be done, but it probably shouldn't. I agree with that sentiment.
Exactly. Yeah. In other news, we're switching over to XML for all of our tooling. No, I'm joking. As a mass departure ensues. All right. The other thing that, like I said, things come in threes. Last week we talked about like a resurgence in package management systems for Kubernetes. Helm has been around forever. For all of its faults, Helm is also probably one of the big reasons that Kubernetes is where it is today, because it made it very easy to distribute architectures on top of Kubernetes, third-party services and applications. Pretty much every major mainstream project out there meant to operate on Kubernetes that's open source probably has a Helm chart somewhere, and a few contrarians that distribute it as customized templates. Now, the other thing is with this glasskube it's dependency aware. I forget if it's, and I spelled this wrong, manager for Kubernetes. I don't know what the differentiators are on this one. I didn't have a chance to look into it. I think it was also trending on Hacker News, which was what got me to see it. One of the differentiators is, of course, the graphical UI. So if you have an inventory of the charts you want to make available, kind of like a service catalog to your developers, this is it. I don't know if it comes with a authentication aspect to it, like OIDC. That's the biggest problem with every one of these freaking dashboards that I see is like, they're great, but the hardest part, like how do you now add authorization to it, is not provided. And I get it. It's a complicated thing. Different companies and organizations will have different ways of providing authorization to it. For the longest time, I don't know if it's still an issue in like Atlantis. There's the dashboard, and since I see Pepe here, I thought I'd single him out. Does Atlantis now have GitHub or does like OIDC capabilities with the dashboard?
With the dashboard, you mean the UI?
Yeah, the UI.
No, it doesn't. No. There
Still
was a
not.
PR for someone to work on that and actually add OIDC for GCP to even authenticate against it too, and then use the
Yeah.
same for the UI, but that never ended,
made it.
you know.
Yeah. So that's the frustrating thing. So then it's the simple things ends up to this huge apparatus you got to create, and you got to deploy then the proxy that sits in front of it and connect the proxy to your IDP. And well, dude, I just wanted to deploy the container and be done with it, right? All right. So that's my rant there. All right. I'm going to show actually, I'm not sure if I'll have a demo on this next week, probably. I'm going to try and do some more demos related to Atmos on office hours. We've invested a lot in making it easier to do that. I'll talk about that in a moment. But as part of that, one of the things I've had prompt envy over has been Matt on our team. Matt always has the slickest prompts on his laptop, and looking over his shoulder, too cool to ask what he's using, I decided to Google it. I found that he's probably using ZSH auto suggestions. And what I like about it is it's type ahead. So it's configurable, and it can use both your history, but also the built-in autocomplete functionalities of the shell itself. So it's both informed by what you've previously typed and informed by things that you have yet to type, possibly like branch names on a Git command. I love this. I started using it a few days ago, and as you're typing, it's just like intuitive and knowing what you want to do. One improvement would be like some AI aspect to this, where it actually can kind of gauge your intent based on the previous sequence of commands and based on the available context that it has. Anyways, that's asking a lot. Big step up if you're using ZSH.
I'll just add, if you happen to be using ZSH and the warp shell, you kind of get some of that AI like intelligence.
Oh, really?
Warp does some stuff to make it a little bit slicker. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
And they have a whole bunch of other things where you can, now they even have like natural language things. You can type commands that you want in natural language, and it will like translate it to bash commands. And I don't know, I have a bunch of it turned off just because I feel like it's cheating. But it does look pretty good.
And it'll never hallucinate. So as you're typing rm-rf/enter,
Yeah.
I don't know if it has.
Well, if you're typing that, it's fine. If it types that, there's a problem.
Yeah. So here's just a very simple demo. You can see that you seed it basically as you are using it, but as it becomes more intelligent based on your command history, it automatically intuits kind of what you might be typing. I found it a little bit annoying with some things like commit messages, where I am usually typing it slightly differently. And I don't know what I would want it to do. I guess I know what I want it to do. I adjusted it with tab completion. So when I hit tab, it just extends to the end of the line, whatever I see. But what I really would like it probably to do is to tab extend to the next word. And maybe that's a setting. I just haven't tweaked it. Is that what you have, Matt? Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'll look into that. Anyone else using this or have other cool hacks?
There was another, if you're using like Oh My Z Shell or something to that effect, another fun one that I enjoy as a fuzzy finder enjoyer is the I think it's ZSH interactive CD. When you go to change directories around, it'll create almost like it'll use fuzzy finder to create an interactive list that you can go through, which makes it a little bit easier
Nice.
to navigate.
All right, I can get behind that. I'll try that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have some. I don't think that's the exact one I'm using, but I have something very similar to that.
I
If
think
I
there's another version called Fig that's a little bit more graphical in nature that looks very, or sorry, Fig with the F looks similar to that.
That's a programming language. Oh no, that's Zig.
There was a Fig. Well, there's what was Fig was the one that was bought by Amazon.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
That's
That's
the
not the
other.
thing. Was that the one you were talking about, Michael?
I think it might be. They have some kind of
Yeah.
integration that does like a graphical CD thing.
Okay. And theirs was integrated to Amazon Q, which is their AI
Mhm.
chat bot competitor to GPT. All right. Well, please share those in the Zoom chat if you have any other cool things. I want to check those out. This goes along the other underlying theme here is that text UIs TUIs are making a comeback. A lot of investment is being done on them. And it's interesting. Things are kind of cyclical. Like you can get a lot done in a fancy UI, but sometimes it's too much information and also it can be overwhelming. And you're kind of artificially constrained operating in a text UI and forced to try and make things simpler and efficient. So my thoughts there. All right. Tangentially related only because Assange wrote the, Strobe, which was one of the first port scanners out there, very efficient. This is going back 14, 15, 20 years ago or something. Definitely used that back in the day. So Julian Assange finally reached a plea deal with the US government to end his ordeal, and he's already back in Australia. And I'm paywalled here, so I can't show you the article. Can there be a happy ending? I don't know. I just hope that he can get on with his life because what a detour that has been for him. So I was blown away by this. I've been living under a rock apparently, and roadmaps.sh on GitHub. Where is it? Roadmaps.sh. They have something like 268,000 stars somewhere I read, but why? Wait, this doesn't look like it. What was I seeing?
Is it with an S, like roadmaps.sh? Because you're on just singular
Yeah.
roadmap.
That might be it. Yeah, it's here. What was it? GitHub. I didn't get this part here. Developer roadmap, what, 280,000 stars, but I didn't independently verify it. Yeah, there, look at that. So it's under a different organization. I don't know if I've seen a repository with that many stars on it, but that's pretty freaking remarkable.
Well, it says it's the sixth most starred repo on GitHub. So there
Yeah.
are five. There are apparently five that have more.
There are five that have more. You're a smart one, aren't you? All right.
That's why I got into computer science. I'm really good at the maths.
Yeah, no, that's why you work at Cloud Posse. All right. So what they do at Roadmaps is they put together knowledge maps, kind of like a mind map almost of all the different concepts and how they relate to each other. And by clicking on any one of the nodes, you can dig into it and understand it. It's a pretty effective learning device, I think, for breaking down an advanced concept in a visual way. So they have just released a roadmap for Terraform. Might be interesting for any newcomers at your company looking to get a grip on Terraform to check it out, especially considering it's a very popular project. Has anybody used roadmaps before? Can they fill me in? I'm curious. All right, be that way. Yeah, close to my heart, Atmos documentation. So we've been actively investing in Atmos documentation for the last year and a half or two. This is the largest rewrite of our documentation. We have reorganized the kind of information architecture of Atmos to be a lot easier to understand. One of the realizations was it really helps in technical documentation if you take the learner on a journey from the beginning, knowing very little, to the advanced concepts, and introduce the information as you go on that, versus thinking about documentation strictly as a reference. Where do you enter the graph if you don't even know where to begin, if you don't even understand the concepts? So this was an epiphany kind of I had. It was not original. Actually, Matt here kind of prompted the whole thing and just made it really clear what a bad job we were kind of doing on that. I'm not saying we nailed it, but I think we have an opinion now on how to improve and continue to improve the documentation to make it easier to understand Atmos. So as part of this, some of the things we've done, I just wanted to draw attention to is the Atmos mindset. So Atmos is a tool by Cloud Posse. It's more or less a tool and a framework for how to approach Terraform. And it can be a little bit abstract if you aren't already familiar with how we think about infrastructure, which isn't the same way everyone else does. So by starting with the Atmos mindset, you can see the logical way that we break down and think about your infrastructure and how we therefore created a framework to support that. And the 5 steps you're going to take every single time you start a new project with Atmos, from setting up your repository and directory structure and how you lay out and organize your configuration. If you look at most companies, it's just a mishmash of standards. It's like 25 dozen ways of doing it. It's seldom converges on one way. When you use Atmos, we give you a proven way of organizing all your configurations. Then you're going to write your Terraform root modules for all of the different pieces of your infrastructure. And then you need to configure those pieces and pass values between them. Because if you decompose your architecture, you'll inevitably have information you want to reuse. So I definitely encourage you to check it out if you've been curious about Atmos, want your feedback, any rough edges, really want to know about them. It's not intent. We don't want you to prove how smart you are. We want you to prove how dumb we are by missing something in the documentation. So please let me know if you struggle with anything. The other cool thing that we did is invest a ton of time in a ready-to-go Codespace. If you're familiar with dev containers, they're a concept popularized by GitHub and a lot of the IDEs out there. They let you have a pre-configured development environment so you don't have to spend a day getting things set up. It just works out of the box. And in this case, we provide one for Atmos. We call it the Atmos Demo Lab. You point it at the main branch. You click Create the Codespace here. And in roughly 60 seconds, you'll have a fully functional environment suitable for experimenting with Atmos in a way that doesn't require you to have AWS credentials, Google credentials, Azure credentials, administrative level access. You don't need any of that. Because one of the things that we've deployed together with this is local stack. Local stack has been around for a long time, but I think in the last year, they've really made leaps and bounds in stability and versatility and support of APIs, made it very easy to get up and running. So let's say you don't even want to use Atmos. This environment is going to show you so many cool little tricks that you can borrow in your organization. And hopefully Atmos is one of those. So in this example here, it drops you immediately into our examples folder. You'll see the different examples we have that walk you through Atmos. We have examples for Atlantis, generating the configuration. Now, there's not a complete example for Atlantis. There are other pieces of it. This is just showing you the one specific Atmos piece of the Atmos setup of generating the Atmos.yaml. Sorry, the Atlantis.yaml. And things like using local stack. So we have a demo here using local stack together with Atmos. We implement some example component like provisioning a bucket, and then the stack configurations to deploy that into like dev, staging, and production. So this is like a simple stack configuration in Atmos. So yeah, why don't I just show a quick example of what that looks like. So if I go into the demo local stack here and run Atmos, Terraform, plan, demo, I think is the stack, and stack dev. So this is mocking AWS behind the scenes, talking with local stack. And it's running a Terraform plan to create a bucket. And you see all the resources there. And we can actually go ahead and apply that then, the same way you would ordinarily do with Terraform, together with Atmos. And the configuration of this is really easy. I'm going to show you how you would do it with a simple import in Atmos. I'm going to let that complete here for a second. And there we go. We have a bucket created. And to set that up in Atmos is really easy. We go over here to mixins where we define the provider configuration. This is a YAML representation of a Terraform provider configuration block. We use YAML throughout Atmos for the configuration aspects of how we provision your stacks. In this case, we're dynamically generating a provider block and overriding the API endpoints for each of these AWS services to point to the local stack running on this dev container. So if I were to run like Docker compose or PS, is it? Yeah, there you can see that local stack is just running. And in this example, there's a Docker compose file here that you can use if you want to try Docker compose easily in your own local development environments. So check that out. Any questions on the local stack stuff? The other cool thing we did is within the demo Helm file here is we created a Docker compose file as well for K3s. K3s is a totally stripped down version of Kubernetes that runs inside of Docker and gives you a Kubernetes compatible API endpoint for your basic type of stuff. Because it's stripped down, there's a lot of things you can't do, but it is a great substitute for a real cluster when you're learning the ropes to get up and running with this. So we provide an example of using Helm file together with K3s and Atmos. All right. What else to point out here? Yeah, that's it for now. I just really want your feedback. If you get a chance to try it out, let me know.
So seeing that we are talking about Terraform learning roadmap and then learning, and we were talking about a lot of those things, I just happened to look at the top starred repos on GitHub, and I posted it in the chat. And 8 out of the top 10 are basically like learn how to do things, which is interesting. And then the first real project that appears on there is React at number 10. So I don't mean real project. I mean like, you know, not like an actual like thing, like a coding thing or, you know, whatever. Like the rest of it is like learn how to do this, take a journey on that.
Learn how to do React was number 9.
Yeah, it is above it. Like and then the awesome.
Really?
You know, awesome repo is above that, like, and a bunch of
Really?
other things. So yeah,
Oh.
it's right there in chat if you want to open it
Oh.
up. It's just a list. It's in the Zoom chat. It's the bottom one. That's the list of all the top repos. But it didn't open. If you opened it, it didn't open in the
Yeah,
sharing
no, I
window.
was seeing what in the Zoom chat. I don't see.
Oh, you know what? It looks like somehow it looks like my scope changed to send it directly just to one person instead of the
Oh.
whole group chat. There we go.
right.
There's the whole group chat. Sorry, it was the bottom one.
All right,
I'm like,
hold on.
why can't you see it?
Yeah, and it's still opened up in the wrong window. Here we go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so that's the
Free Code Camp at number 1. Free programming books. Awesome. Public APIs.
yeah. Awesome is the meta awesome. Like awesome is the awesome of awesomes. If you look at that one, so that's like all the other awesome
That's
lists.
the list
So
of all
like,
the other. Yeah.
yeah.
I should call it like awesomest or something.
Most awesome.
Most yeah. Oh, my ZSH is pretty high up there. Cool. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. And it looks like it's updated very frequently. So they must have some job that's basically querying it and updating it because that was updated like yesterday or today.
With hundreds of thousands of people following or tens of thousands of people, I think that can alone do it. I wonder how many awesome lists are created per week. So I talked about the Codespace mindset and simple quick start. All right, moving on. CentOS. They announced years ago that they are basically stopping LTS support for the CentOS kind of version of Red Hat, if you will. It's always was designed to kind of be in parity with the enterprise Linux distribution by Red Hat. Now it's just been kind of pivoted to CentOS Stream, and it's still going to have major versions, but within the major version, it's just a stream of updates. So no pinned support like for some working combination of the packages. Clearly, it's a move to probably direct more enterprises who require stability to pick Red Hat itself. So Red Hat is differentiated. I think I've seen this move in at least one other project. I think recently, I think gravitational teleport is moving in this direction where I don't think they're going to be doing specific releases in the community edition of it. Or I'm just thinking that, or I'm getting my facts confused. I know for a fact they were going to stop distributing binaries. I don't know if they were going to stop doing version releases or not. I might be misspeaking there.
Yeah. I hope this isn't a telltale sign of what happens when IBM acquires an open source project. ...
Yeah. So Terraform versions are going away. No more provider pinning or Terraform version pinning.
For anyone here that was heavily dependent on CentOS, assuming that you just didn't go with RHEL, have you migrated towards like Rocky Linux or anything else?
all our stuff is pretty much running on Amazon Linux or Debian. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can't answer. Like we can't answer that.
Yeah, I'm using Debian as well. So yeah, company I worked at was on CentOS before, and I wasn't there. I wasn't around when this happened, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, that's what Amazon Linux is basically like. They forked it and it kept going. Like,
yeah,
yeah. And they're doing like year-based releases now with Amazon Linux, right, in 2023, which was a very painful upgrade from AL2.
yeah.
All right. Let's see. So that was that. And Clojure. So Slack has come out and basically communicated indirectly their long-term plan for communities. There is none. I've been secretly holding out that one day they're gonna come out with a plan for Slack communities that was not cost prohibitive. And for that reason, been kind of committed to staying on Slack. So actually, I want to talk more about that after this. With this move, Slack communities history will disappear after 1 year. Some of you might know, well, it already does that after 90 days, so what's the difference? Well, it's like an option. Your history is actually there. You have an option to buy it. It's just going to cost you thousands or tens of thousands of dollars to do it, but it's there. You can get it. It's not going away. And we rely on that with our sweetops community. We take a backup of that. We have that. So we have a record kind of what has transpired over the almost 10 years of sweetops Slack community. Now that 9 years is going to be deleted come the end of August. And I'm not happy with it, but the sunshine story here, or being an optimist that I am, it kind of brings closure to it, because I have no illusions anymore that they're going to introduce, hey, maybe individual members could maybe pay to upgrade and get history. That would be great for communities. Maybe, Slack teams of a certain size or, certain affiliation, I don't know, could qualify for these things. But right now they only have plans for nonprofits. And we do open source at Cloud Posse, but don't confuse that with being a nonprofit. We still are trying to run a business here, and we can't afford to pay for Slack. Also, Slack last year was not paying for us. Our Slack team wasn't impractical. It cost us a couple $1,000s a month, but they changed how they count active users, and our bill skyrocketed to $6,500 a month. And they can technically claim we haven't changed prices in Slack. Well, effectively you did, and that really rubbed me the wrong way. So I think this is the straw that breaks the camel's back, and I'm really curious, what is the gold standard these days? I think that's an exaggeration. It seems like all the communities are more or less on Discord these days. Is that still like the right choice? I've seen some people saying use Telegram. Curious, of those who are on the Slack community, or if you were in a situation like this, would you make the jump to the next community? Do you participate in active Discord communities? How has that been? Any advice?
I've seen. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the communities that I've joined that moved from Slack to Discord, I followed, but my participation dropped like 95%. I check my Discord maybe once a month.
Right. Because you're only in it for communities. You're not also in it for work. And it's kind of this mental shift.
Yep.
I see more than one person nodding their head on that one. That sucks. I mean, I'm not criticizing. I'm just, I was looking for the easy answer. The other, and it's very disruptive to a community, right? To change platforms, replatforming like that. It can be a death knell of a community. It's basically starting over again. You can import the history, but the history is not associated with the original persons. They don't get updates on those threads when they're updated. So it's not a decision to do lightly, but I think if there is a time to do it, might as well start building out that history now. If Slack's just going to delete it. The other one, yeah, go on, Matt.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I also recently saw, I just was looking in my notes. I meant to bring it up to you earlier, a new thing called well, I don't know how new it is, but it's called Linen-dev.
Oh, right.
That essentially aggregates Slack and Discord communities and turns them into like websites that can be indexed by Google, basically to drive traffic to your communities.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few of these. I was researching it for a while. At the time, I decided, screw it, we're just going to keep our archiving solution that we have. But our archiving solution that we have will no longer work. So now it's the time to jump on board with one of these. It's, it's interesting. It's, it's certainly a lot cheaper than the thousands we were spending. Couldn't I just give Slack this money instead for some limited version? It's too bad, but I guess it's just not worth Salesforce's time, right? Hey, they're a sales organization. They know what they're doing when it comes to sales. Yeah, and a lot of these services have shut down. That's the other thing that has me concerned about using any one of them, because we're kind of coupling our destiny with their destiny.
Well, I mean, yes, although I believe that the way this works is it just generates HTML that you can host anywhere you want. Like it basically ingests all your Slack stuff and is generating it as like as an actual like website.
Yeah.
And if you look at who's using this, it's some pretty big,
Yeah,
pretty big projects that are using this service.
that's a good point.
I happen to know the person who started Linen-dev.
Oh yeah?
And yeah, I could put you in contact with them. They also have a public GitHub for the source code.
Oh
That's-
really?
They do.
So you can self-host it as well?
I think you could. It's written in Elixir. Or the backend is, at least.
Yeah, please keep me in mind if you could look that up and make an intro. I think it's that might be the less disruptive thing to do. We also have tons of automation around Slack and other integrations that we do. So I would rather not move if I could. All right, that's that. All right, so where do I find all these cool terminal utilities? I didn't find them here, but it turns out I could have. There's a lot of these little microsites, if you will, vertically specialized in some topic. A lot of them are spammy or scammy. I wouldn't share it otherwise if that was the case. It's only because I cross-referenced it with like the things I've been sharing on office hours. So either the person who started this listens to office hours and just takes all the things I find, or they're actually the source for a lot of them as well. So check them out. It's organized by well, alphabetically here, but also by category. Toolchain, what it's written in. So yeah, like Go utilities.
And after you install them all, you can no longer do anything because your machine is so slow.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know. One tool, I mean, this is Linux in a nutshell, right? You have a dozen small utilities that do one thing well. You don't have to do all of them together.
Yeah, except for every little thing that you're doing is like piping FCF to it, and like so you're constantly like doing all this stuff under the hood. So
Yeah.
I agree.
All right. That was the end of my announcements. Oh no, I have one last one. I remember cutting my teeth on poker in high school and college. It's a critical rite of passage in Perl. It's to a lesser degree in Ruby, where I got started. And it's just interesting, the story behind poker, PCRE, the Perl regular expression library that is used, in this case, Perl C regular expression library, I think is what it stands for. That was rewritten and is used basically anywhere you use a regex, probably uses this under the hood. And you know that diagram where like the whole internet depends on this one little project maintained by some guy in Nebraska who is doing it as a volunteer? Well, add to that that guy in Nebraska is 80 years old and has been doing it for like 60 years or something, or 40 years. That's the story of poker. And I had no idea that little bit of trivia. So obviously, probably not a trivial piece of code to maintain, but they are now looking for new people to maintain it. Maybe a newer, faster version as well. Poker too.
You have to be somewhat mentally deranged to want to maintain a regex library. It's like, it is like the hardest possible thing you could work on, I think, out there, to get it right and to constantly make changes to it. Your test suite better be really, really, really,
insanely
really
good test suite. But it's magic. It's black magic. When you it gets a lot of hate, and it is an escape hatch. But I can't tell you, over the years how many times knowing regular expressions has been an asset to me for situations and saved a lot of time. So.
Yeah, I use them all the time. I just can't imagine maintaining the library that parses them. It just seems crazy.
Yeah. Pretty clever use of characters to come up with all the different expressions. I was gonna say on that note. Oh yeah, that reminds me. So it was funny. I got a comment on one of our videos that we posted on YouTube. Is lol. He pronounced NixOS as Nixos, and I catch myself now all the time. I love pronunciating acronyms because they just seem more relatable. Like kubectl, I never call it that. Kubectl, man. Poker has always been, PCRE has always been poker for me. Anyone else do that?
I'm more likely to say the thing, like the abbreviation.
Yeah.
I'll always go PCRE. I don't know why.
Yeah. I don't say it always like macOS. I don't say macOS. I do say macOS on that one, but Nixos just sounds better to me than NixOS. I think I got it from Germany though. All right. What other announcements? Is Matt Gowie on the call today? I haven't seen him for a while. Nope. All right, so yeah, I have two topics to talk about. Otherwise, first thought I'd turn it over to questions though. Any questions on anything? Open-ended?
Yeah, hi. I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I'm currently trying to do some backups for my S3 bucket containers. Sorry, S3 bucket data and all, and I'm trying to find the best possible way to do without spending so much money. First one I did was try to because I have so much files, I have things like Parquet files being stored in my S3 bucket. Sometimes they are a lot and I want to empty that S3 bucket, and it takes so long for me to empty it, about 2 terabytes of data. So I try to set the bucket to have like an extra rule, a non-concurrency rule, that after one day just delete data that have gone into the non-concurrency. But so I have two things now. I want to be able to store the data that I have in my S3 after deleting my clusters, my Kubernetes cluster, but I don't want to spend money while storing it in S3 buckets. And I don't also want to move it to Glacier, because I would have to still spend money to retrieve it. So my question is there anywhere, like, is there another way I could actually store S3 data in the format they are in, so I could recover it later? Don't know if my question makes any sense.
Yeah, I guess my only question back to you would be, where would you want to store it? Do you mean like locally?
I don't want.
You basically you said you didn't want to store it in S3 and you don't want to store it in Glacier. So where would the ideal place be to store it for you?
So I was trying to use Glacier at first, but it was going to cost me a lot of money to do that, to retrieve it because of the amount of data. Then I was trying to also use AWS backup. And I'm looking for a great place to start. Go ahead, please.
What about reduced redundancy? That was designed to be a more affordable option, less copies, and therefore they pass that savings along to you.
Was that in S3 bucket too?
Yeah, that's S3 has a million features since it's been around for so long, and one of those is recently announced the AWS S3 reduced redundancy storage, which is the most economical option that they have. It's still highly available and reliable. It's just that it's not replicated, I believe, across like multiple regions or something.
Well, would I have to pay money to retrieve the data like Glacier?
No, I mean it works. So Glacier is different. Glacier is like saying, I am unsure that I will never, how do you say it, need to access this data again. I want the option to access it in the future. I don't want to pay a lot of money to store it, but I might have to pay. But if I change my mind and I need the data, okay, I'm going to have to pay up and retrieve it, and that's going to be expensive. If you're using that as a pattern, I don't believe that's the intent of Glacier. Glacier is like, think back in the day, or companies still do it, like Iron Mountain, where you want to store a copy of your data in the event of a nuclear disaster and be able to recover it. You're not planning on having nuclear disasters on a weekly or monthly basis. It's like a one-time thing, and you're willing to pony up and pay it to pull it out when you need it. And Glacier is a little bit is that it's long-term storage for things that you're seldomly going to need to access, and you'll pay a little bit more for it when you might have to retrieve it, but you pay very little for it, I believe, in cold storage. Is that accurate, Matt? You were good.
Yeah, that's accurate. And there's actually like none of those things are like finite. So even Glacier has multiple storage tiers. So there's like the instant retrieval tier, there's the flexible retrieval tier, and then there's like deep archive. And each one of those gets like it gets less expensive as you go down that for how often you'll actually retrieve that data. And the same thing with the standard the storage tiers for S3 itself. So there's like the standard access, then there's like a one zone access, and there's like an infrequent access one, and then there's an archive instant access or something, and there's a deep archive access. So there's like all, depending on how often you need to like retrieve this data out of your cache, I think you can or whatever you want to call it, out of your backup, out of your archive of it, you'll essentially have to pick the thing that aligns best with your data access pattern. But I mean, at the end of the day, you're going, like, Amazon is going to pay, you're going to pay Amazon one way or the other to store it or to retrieve it, or both, depending on how frequently you're doing this. So I don't think there's any like free way to do it, quote unquote, out there.
Okay.
The other option is other clouds, to be competitive with AWS, are using S3 as the I don't know, loss leaders, the correct word, but they're luring customers by offering cheaper S3 alternatives, often with more modern features. R3 being Cloudflare's option. I don't know the math myself, but I hear that they're less expensive and have some.
They are, except that they get you on the egress out of AWS if it's not a one-time migration scenario. Right. So if you're running all your compute in AWS to do like the data analysis and all that other stuff that we're talking about, that's not going to be cheaper, definitely.
That makes sense, yeah. Which brings up the next point. Make sure that you have the VPC endpoints, the S3 VPC endpoints configured so that you're not paying the transfer costs
Not gateway cost. Yeah.
Do you have that set up or?
No, I don't think so. I should actually look into that. I
Yeah.
should actually look into that because, yeah, because I have a couple of customer data, mainly POC data and all of that. And I don't want to mess up with my Parquet files configuration. But thank you. I'm going to look at this Amazon S3 reduced redundancy too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
Two few options. Any other questions we can get answered today? Let's see. Oh, Jim shared the link for Linen. Is this the actual full lightweight Google searchable stack alternative? Huh. That's cool.
When I looked at it, it seems like it's just the front end. So I think the Linen backend is still closed source.
Interesting. AGPL license. Well, I mean, does it even need a backend? Is it just building a static version of the site, more or less? You know.
Well, I think the thing that is the harvester that takes all the messages and creates all that stuff, and all that piece is what it is, the back end, quote unquote.
I gotcha. Yeah, non-trivial to implement that. All right. Well, I'll leave the other discussion points for next week. I don't want to. I think these are really interesting topics to discuss that I saw on LinkedIn this past week. But we'll discuss those next week. We'll post a recording of today's session to the YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/cloudposse to subscribe. If you found anything about today's call interesting, you can share that with your team by looking up that video. Please like and subscribe. That does help us out a great deal, get visibility on YouTube. If you're interested in working with Cloud Posse and seeing if we can help move the needle at your organization, you can book a call with me directly. Just go to cloudposse.com/meet, answer a few quick questions, and pick a time that works for you. Finally, here are some other next steps you can take if you're interested in getting more involved with our community. We have a Slack community, probably staying on Slack for the foreseeable future. Go to slack.cloudposse.com. Again, slack.cloudposse.com. A weekly newsletter where we share some of the really interesting links that we find every week. That's at newsletter.cloudposse.com. And if you want to register for our weekly office hours, these are live. You can join and attend, ask any questions that are on your mind. Go to cloudposse.com/office hours. Again, cloudposse.com/office hours. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your week. See you next week.